Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Basketball Conference, the ACC Football Podcast. My name's Joey Weaver. He's Mike McDaniel. Mike, Week 8 is upon us. How are you? You ready to talk about some games?
There is only one thing, Joey, that matters this evening. Producer Scott is back.
Bowling Green getting back? Oh, sorry. Yeah, Producer Scott is back.
Hello.
Producer Scott, welcome back.
Welcome back, friends. I'm glad to be back in your presence and making this podcast better because y'all were in shambles without me.
We were.
That's putting it nicely, honestly.
That is putting it nicely.
I know. I listened.
It is wonderful having Producer Scott back with us. Mike, we are live, youtube.com/at the ACC Football Podcast. It is going on 11 o'clock Eastern Time on Wednesday night, October the 16th. We're here looking to preview some Week 8 action. Busy week in the ACC. We got a bunch of games that we want to get to here. But, of course, we got to do a look back at Week 7 before we do anything that you wanted to hit on before we get into Week 7 one more time.
All I want to do before we get into anything tonight, Scott wanted to say a few words.
Mm-hmm.
Want to give him the floor.
Yep. Appreciate everyone that shouted out the pod and the initial announcement from Mike about what happened. Very shitty situation. I'm just going to put it at shitty. That's all it's been. But these two right here, Mike and Joey, especially Mike, as my brother-in-law, have been really supportive in this shitty time. So I appreciate everyone's kind words and well wishes, and also the happy birthday shout outs, which is taking a back seat to the fuckery that's happened in my life in the past 2 weeks. But this podcast has been a bright light in my life for you guys have been doing this for 8 years total, 9 years, and then 3 years with me, and it's helped me have a sense of normality. So that's great. So that's why I'm here today, just to try to get something going. And I'm hoping to obviously make the podcast better because, again, it shambles without me. But no thumbnails, no timestamps. They can't do it right, people. I'm sorry. But I just want to appreciate everyone for their condolences, and just that's it. Thanks, guys.
Scott, we love you. We miss you, and we're really glad to have you back here. As you mentioned, we're basically some like feral children here when you're gone. So it's really nice having our fearless leader back with us.
And Scott, I tried to give you the sense of normalcy basically like a couple days after it happened when you told me to hit record, and I did it without my main microphone.
Yeah, that actually made me more mad.
I
okay.
figured it would. I figured it would.
Listening to garbage again. I thought I made this better.
At least, what I will say about that is you didn't need your scuba gear. At least, like the first couple episodes of this podcast, when it sounded like we were recording underwater. So that's.
Mike did eventually lose access to that wind tunnel that he was in the first couple episodes.
That's right.
That's the only thing that was missing.
That's right.
It's been tough being without you, Scott, but we're glad that you're back. And again, the thoughts have been with you, continue to be with you and the family as you kind of go through the time. But it's good to have you back. It's good to be back to a sense of normalcy. Let's dig in. Let's get into these games. One more thing, by the way, before we jump in, I mentioned we're at youtube.com/at the ACC Football Podcast. We are still working our way towards 500 subscribers this year. That number has been skyrocketing. We are currently at 461. Really appreciate your all support. We need 39 more to hit our goal for the year. You guys have been awesome finding friends, family, sharing it with your friends. If you're watching this right now live, if you're watching it later, please hit that subscribe button. That is super helpful for us. It's a really big deal. Hit the bell icon. You'll find out when we're going to go live as we do these usually Wednesday night previews, usually Saturday night recaps. We'll talk scheduling a little later in the pod, but we'll get there. So in any case, appreciate all of your support, and please hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. Mike, let's do a little bit of a Rhoback look back at Week 7. How's that sound?
Let's do it.
The Rhoback Lookback at Week 7. As a reminder, please use promo code GOACC20 for 20% off your first order at Rhoback.com. They've got all sorts of wonderful athletic wear products. Looks like producer Scott might have one of their hoodies on right now. Is that a game day hoodie, Scott?
This is a game day hoodie. I bought it as a retail therapy / birthday present. It came in 2 days. Great shipping speeds from Rhoback, and it fits very comfortable. It's got the official Virginia Tech logo here. It's embroidered on. This is no screen print. We don't play around. And it's got the Rhoback logo up here. I'm trying to lean in so you can see the doggo up there. But very comfortable, very fashionable, and very lightweight. We love Rhoback.
It looks fantastic.
Thank you.
I wore a Rhoback shirt to work today. Super comfortable, looked great. Wearing them to church, wearing them on the golf course. Like they go everywhere with me. So highly recommended Rhoback.com if you have not been there yet.
Shout out to them.
Rhoback Lookback, Week 7. Mike, Cal's kicking situation is an absolute catastrophe right now.
Good thing Ryan Coe can make extra points, because that's about the only thing he can make.
I was going to say, I don't have a whole lot of detail on this, but this is something that we just really didn't hit on enough with the game that they lost to Pitt last weekend, is that, if I'm remembering right, the number I think is Cal is currently like 7 of 14 on the year on field goals.
That's correct, including a 2 of 5 mark from 30 to 39 yards, which is where most college kicks take place. So that's just not great.
Yeah.
No, God! No!
Yeah. See,
well,
this is what we were missing without Scott. Stuff like that we were missing, right?
That's exactly right. The other thing that comes to mind here is not only like we're struggling to make kicks, but Mike, how many of those kicks have been in like critical game situations? And you look at a team like Cal, and I mean, for the way that I think of them right now in terms of team quality does not mesh with the fact that they're 0-3 in ACC play. Like,
right.
They have lost, when we said, 3 games by 8, 9 points?
9 total points.
And how many field goals have they missed in those 3 games that they've lost by 9 points? Right, like
a bunch. Enough.
You think they'd have something in the win column if they had made more field goals?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you make field goals, you probably beat Florida State for starters. That's looking like quite the blemish. They play well enough defensively, and the offense isn't great, but it's fine. Like, you have Jaden Ott, who, again, hasn't been outstanding this year through no fault of his own. He's been a little banged up. Offensive line's been up and down. Passing game hasn't been really good. So, like, he's been up against it, but they've proven to be a very good defense. And they got to figure it out in the other 2 phases of the game with any sort of consistency, right? Yeah. I mean, if they play just a little bit better, a half notch better offensively and a half notch better in the kicking game, we're probably talking about at least a 5-1 Cal team right now. So this is not like worst team in the ACC territory, even though now they're sitting 0-3 and last in the conference in terms of win-loss record.
Yeah, they're better than that. I mean, this is like a top 5 defense in the ACC, and the offense lacks consistency, but can do things at times. I mean, like, I think this is a team that is right around kind of where I expected them to be. I think I picked them to go 6-6, 7-5 in the preseason, like, and I think they're still capable of that. But this is just it's got to be a big focus point moving forward. Is like, we can't keep missing like average expected to be made field goals. Like that's just kind of a big deal for Cal right now.
Yeah, agree. So, I mean, keep an eye on that. The fact that, again, Jaden Ott's been banged up. He's averaging 2.9 yards per carry this year, just simply not good enough, right? Javian Thomas has filled in when Ott's been banged up. He's averaging 5.8 yards per carry, but he only has 359 yards rushing through 6 games. I mean, the rushing offense for Cal has been totally non-existent, and the passing game has not been much better. And then they're struggling in the kicking game. So when you're struggling in 2 out of the 3 phases, you're going to lose close games, even if your defense keeps you in these contests, which Cal's defense has, to their credit.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So wanted to call that out. And then we got a question on Twitter from Dan, who's a Georgia Tech fan, and it's somewhat Georgia Tech related, but I think it's actually a better kind of macro question. Dan points out, he's like, you guys keep using the phrase weird game. He says Georgia Tech's had a lot of them, and there's been a lot in the ACC in general, and he thinks it's time to define this term. What does it mean? Why are games weird? Concern for Georgia Tech that it's bad coaching. Wanted to hear your thoughts. Mike, is there anything that sticks out to you? I've got some thoughts here. I didn't know if you wanted to drop anything here before I get into a couple things that came to my mind when I saw this.
There was one thing that, two things that came to my mind when it came to this, right? Depending on the team, it could be coaching.
Mm-hmm.
In Georgia Tech's specific case, I don't think it is coaching for Georgia Tech. So number one, can be coaching. Number two, it's when, in my opinion, when teams consistently play weird games, it's when we go into this game with an impression of the team in question and the opponent they're playing, and we think that this team is better than their opponent, and they keep getting dragged down in the mud time after time after time, generally coming out with wins, but playing down to opponents more often than not. Or maybe an opponent plays up to said team, and we don't think that, we'll use Georgia Tech as an example, played all that poorly, right? Really, I think what we're trying to say is, if a team keeps playing weird games and it's kind of going like this and up and down, maybe the team's just mid. Like, maybe they're just okay, right? And I made this comment on the last podcast where we're 7 weeks into 7 games into a season for Georgia Tech. I'm still trying to figure out what they are. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they fine? They're probably fine. I think they're probably just a fine team, like a middle of the road FBS team, which I think is a fair statement for Georgia Tech.
And an upgrade from previous years,
an upgrade from the previous regime. So that's what I think defines weird game. It's not a perfect science, but like if you continuously play weird games, eventually, number one, it's going to catch up to you. But number two, on top of that, it's a mix of you're playing down to the opponent or you're keeping an opponent in the game after jumping out to a huge lead. Like, it's not going to be the same every game. That's why it's a weird game. But I think there's like a common thread across all of them where, yes, there could be an element of coaching to it, but I think more than anything, it's just a team's really inconsistent. And I think that in this case with Georgia Tech, they've had games this year where they've looked really good. They've had games where they've played maybe not so well, but they're still sitting here at 5-2. So, I mean, they're having a pretty good year.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly where my mind goes, is games where, and we talk about this sometimes on this show, is this team looked better on like 85 to 90% of the snaps in this game, and then there were those 10 to 15% where like things completely swung. And so the reason this keeps coming up with Georgia Tech, so like I think about, I mean, the North Carolina game is a good example, right? So I think of teams where you are outplaying the other team, but you had a mental lapse for a minute and there's a punt return for a touchdown. Like there's, the other team gets cheap points. Oh, you missed a field goal. Oh, there's, you're outplaying the other team and then you just kind of stalled out in the red zone and didn't really score. Like, so it's these games where your eyes tell you that one team is better, but the scoreboard tells you that the two teams are pretty even, or maybe even the other team is better. That's kind of where I go. And I think back, I mean, Georgia Tech and Louisville, right? Like, Georgia Tech loses that game by 12 points in a game where they gave up a defensive score and a special teams score, right? Weird game. Games where, I'd struggle to think of other ones. I mean, just off the top of my head, but that's the kind of games that come to my mind that are weird, is when you've got these games where just like a few small select plays make them closer or even flip the outcome from what the vast majority tell me it should be.
Boston
Special
College,
teams,
Boston
scores,
College,
that kind of thing.
Boston College against Florida State last year. Like, how many fluke turnovers did BC get in that game that kept them in it? Like, ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Like, Florida State on paper was like easily 3 scores better in Boston College, and some weird stuff kept happening. We're like, all right, well, this is like not stuff that's not repeatable, right? Cal's big plays against Miami 2 weeks ago, not repeatable.
Yep.
Like they are not going to do that week over week over week, because I just talked about how bad their offense has been this year. They're not going to consistently do that. That's the kind of stuff.
And is it coaching? I mean, on some level, yes. Like you kind of have to chalk it up to coaching, but on another level, I mean, I remember Bill Connolly once upon a time talking a lot about this is a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds with a funny shaped ball. Like, you can only really coach so much and only predict so much, and there's only going to be so much consistency. Like, just inherently as a piece of this game, strange things are going to happen. And there are a small set of teams at the very top of the sport that strange things won't really happen to. I mean, Saban's Alabama, Kirby's Georgia, like Ryan Day's Ohio State, a couple things happen to, but Urban's Ohio State, like, take your pick of like some of these like really top end, like top of the mountain programs. They can usually avoid these things, but by and large, I mean, most teams will have weird games at least once or twice a season, because you just can't trust these rosters to be super consistent from week to week.
Right.
And the last thing I'll say on this, you might have heard us reference on this podcast before. I think you and I both listened to SV Pod with Scott Van Pelt and Stanford Steve.
One of my go-tos, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that they've been mentioning, I've heard it almost weekly this year, is it actually is Lee Corso that they keep bringing up. Lee Corso talks about you never get the same team week to week. And the more that I think on that, the more that I think he's right. Like, it is...
Yeah.
It is, and there are a couple of teams that you kind of get the same team week to week, but like, I mean, the first month of the year, Tennessee looks like a friggin' war machine. The last 2 weeks, they look like they don't know how to play football. Like, it's, you just, and nobody can really explain how or why, but sometimes these things just happen. And so I think it's, you can have a year. And so I think, to go back to Dan's question, if I'm looking at Georgia Tech right now, I think about a team that is in a developmental process. Again, like, you're year 2 under full-time Brent Key, and you're still growing and learning. And we talk about, lose big, lose small, win big. Like, I think you're kind of somewhere in that lose small, win small, and that lends itself to weird games. So it's okay to have a year or so where you're having a bunch of quote-unquote weird games. The problem is if you're doing this for 5 years in a row where 7 or 8 of your games are quote unquote weird games, it's like that's not what you're looking for. You need a team that's improving year over year, or showing signs of development that way, that avoid weird mental lapses that allow teams to stay in games they shouldn't be in.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's really it's just going to be dependent on the team we're talking about, I think.
Yeah,
to be quite honest.
Yep. But yeah, those are my thoughts on weird games. It's been almost 20 minutes into the show. Should we talk about clean old fashioned hate, or save that for another show?
Bro,
we can touch on it very quickly.
Real quick. Story came out yesterday, day before, I forget. Georgia Tech moving to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta for 2025, just particularly that year. Nobody's happy about this. I don't think anybody's doing this because it's supposed to be fun or supposed to be a good thing. My take on this is purely a financial move, and mostly one of keeping up with the Joneses and trying to survive in what this new age of college football is, ultimately. Thank you, Producer Scott, for the, what was this, 2-minute timer? Yeah. Nobody's happy about this. But it kind of, and there's been some suggestion of like, oh, Georgia Tech's just embarrassed to have all that red in their stadium when they play these games every year. I mean, maybe, but that's not enough to pick it up and move it elsewhere. It's purely like, we're moving into this new age. We've got to find more money to be able to potentially pay players and all this stuff that's coming down the road. This is a method to do it. Jay Batt hired as athletic director 2 years ago. Monday, I think, was when he was announced. he was previously the fundraising guy, the primary fundraising guy at Alabama, right?
Yeah.
Like that was his big job, and clearly he was brought in here. Your number one strategic directive: find new revenue streams. Guess what? He found one. If you don't like it, I want you to go find $10 million and donate it, and then I bet they'll keep it at Bobby Dodd. Otherwise, you don't like it, I don't like it, you don't have to like it, none of us have to. This is what you got to do. And by the way, if we think that Georgia Tech is the last team that's going to be doing something like this for the sake of trying to survive financially, I'd kind of be surprised. Honestly, I think you're going to start seeing a little bit more of this, especially in the ACC and the Big 12. You're trying to keep up with the power, the Super 2, whatever the hell we're calling that. Like, someone else is going to start doing this too, and they're going to have to. So you're allowed to hate it, but just understand it was done in good faith for Georgia Tech.
Yeah, especially the non-Big 2 conferences are going to do whatever they can to keep up as long as the television contracts are as segregated as they are. So that's all I want to add, and I agree with you.
Slightly different question considering we're talking about Mercedes-Benz Stadium versus FedEx Field, but
Whoa. That's Northwest Stadium now.
oh.
Yeah, you got to leave. You got to leave
FedEx
that
doesn't want to put their
behind,
name on that anymore.
Nah, I mean they
Dan
only
Snyder
associate
had the
with Dan
relationship.
Snyder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would we be okay playing Virginia in Washington for $10 million? Yeah, because that stadium is going to be 96% Virginia Tech fans probably.
Yeah. Scott Stadium.
That's not even.
Which is
that's
the
not
name
even a
of
shot.
Virginia Stadium, not my name. Scott Stadium, Virginia Stadium is already 90% Virginia Tech fans. So no matter where they play,
I don't think
matter.
Virginia would be. I don't think Virginia would be down to do that. With the. That wasn't even really. I mean, I know it seems like that was a shot. It really wasn't.
Yeah.
I promise it wasn't a shot. As I laugh, we're gonna have some angry people in the mentions. Anyway, let's continue.
Week 8 preview.
While we're talking about week 7, sorry, hang on. Yeah. By the way, we didn't mention this yet. Yeah, a little bit of a flu week. I've been hacking up a lung all day.
Yeah.
While we're talking about week 7, let's take one last look. Last week's locks. You and I both had Notre Dame minus the 23. That came in. I had Pittsburgh minus 3. You love losing games where you have a team minus 3 and they win by 2. So love that. Mike, you had North Carolina plus 5, which was really going well until it wasn't.
Oh, awful. Just awful.
Yeah, so we both go 1-1 on the week. I am 9-5 on the year. You are 9-6 on locks this year, which honestly we are really deep into this season for having winning records on locks. So hopefully the people have been tailing us here.
Yeah, I hope so. And including people like Kenneth Reeves, who I think has been a listener for a while. He said, I finally made it to a live. Welcome.
Shout out to Ken. What's up, man?
Welcome, Ken. Welcome.
Kenny and the Jets.
Oh, yeah. Scott.
Kenny from the block. Let's go.
Okay. All right. I can't top that. Those are two really good ones. I'm going to leave those alone. That was outstanding.
I like those more.
Week 8. Oh, God. Okay. Week 8.
Are you okay?
Not really. Hang on.
Take a swig of that beer or water.
Yeah, we're going to the water. It's that bad.
Yeah.
Week 8. We got 8 games on deck this week. 2 of them out of conference, 6 of them conference games. We got 3 teams on bye. That would be North Carolina, Syracuse, and Pittsburgh. I'm pretty sure I checked the math on that right, but don't correct me if I'm wrong. We got a couple weeknight games, so let's start there. Let's start actually Thursday night. That's tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. We got the Boston College Eagles on the road in Blacksburg, taking on your Virginia Tech Hokies, Mike and Scott. Hokies a 7.5-point home favorite, totals 48 and a hook. This is a pretty classic Thursday night matchup, by the way. Hokies in a home game, getting Boston College. This is a good one. Does that hook on the 7.5? Does that make you nervous at all?
No. Virginia Tech, lock it up.
Oh,
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Please.
coming in.
Here's why. I really like this matchup for Virginia Tech. I like it a lot. Okay. So let's start with the defense, and we'll get to the offense in a minute. Let's start with the defense for Virginia Tech. Boston College really cannot run the ball. Like,
Right.
really struggling to run it. And then the passing game, as a result, has been a bit of a choose-your-own-adventure situation for Castellanos, right? And that's been really over the course of the last month. The Western Kentucky game notwithstanding, because obviously he didn't play, was banged up. BC is really struggling on that side of the ball right now, and Virginia Tech's defense has done a lot better job this year of limiting explosive plays. They've really been improving on that. Just in general this year, they've been better with it, but they've really been improving over the last month or so with limiting explosive plays. Gave up a few late in the fourth quarter against Miami. Defense was tired. Defense was really tired. Offense, kind of stalled out. Miami started getting stops. That game just kind of turned because Miami is the better team, right? That game just started turning in the fourth quarter. Virginia Tech played well against Stanford, right? Looked really good there. You're coming off a bye week, right? And you're in the situation now where it's what version of Virginia Tech are you going to get? And I think offensively, this game for Virginia Tech is going to remind you a little bit of the one that they just played out at Stanford prior to the bye week, where, look, Stanford's got a good rush defense. At least that's what we thought. But Virginia Tech just kind of kept plugging and plugging and plugging. And it's not that Virginia Tech was overly efficient in that game, but they stuck with it and it opened up the passing game. Boston College comes in with actually a better ranked defense against the run than Stanford did. But you look at who Boston College has played, and I'm not sure they've played a better rushing offense than Virginia Tech on the schedule so far. I mean, you go through this, Florida State can't run it. Duquesne can't run it. Mizzou is better throwing it than running it. Michigan State can't run it. Western Kentucky can run it a little bit, but not great. Virginia can't run it. This I think is the best rushing offense that Boston College has played this year. And I think BC will get some stops, but I think Virginia Tech, they're going to keep plugging away. And I think it's going to also help that Boston College, it was announced yesterday, lost their top corner for the season. Amari Jackson's out for the year with a torn ACL. Outside of Donovan Ezeraku, I mean, those are the two best players on Boston College's defense. Jackson has really come along strong this year. We probably haven't talked about him enough on this podcast. He's been really good for BC. Him being out for the year hurts a lot, I think, in this game in particular, because I think Virginia Tech's going to run the ball well enough to open up some passing, a passing attack over the top. I just really like this matchup for Virginia Tech defensively. Thursday night, coming off a bye, Virginia Tech's trending in a really good direction. BC has been kind of middling the last month or so and really specifically struggling on the offensive side of the ball. So I really like the Hokies here. This reminds me of a lot of the games last year where Virginia Tech was favored by around a touchdown and a hook, 8-9 points, and Tech goes out and wins the game by a couple touchdowns. That's my feeling. That's my lean going into this game on Thursday night. So I really like Virginia Tech in this matchup. I think it sets up well for them.
I'm trying to remember. Did these teams play last year?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they did.
I was going to say,
Virginia Tech went up to Chestnut Hill and beat the absolute piss out of Boston College in a nooner.
Yeah.
Just beat the brakes off them in a nooner.
48-22.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome.
I was playing golf, listening to it on the radio, and I just heard touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Didn't make me play any better, but I had a good day.
Just a happy boy. And part of what I was thinking, and I think Thomas Castellanos is playing here. Like he missed a game a few weeks ago, but I think he played against Virginia. So he should be good to go here, especially off a bye week. But I mean, he played last year, and clearly that didn't matter almost at all. Again, they lost that game by 26 points, and it might not have even been that close. There's something that's telling me to take the points with Boston College here, just with that hook is kind of making me nervous that maybe they find a way to make it 31-24 or something like that. And by the way, total 48.5 feels a little low to me. might lean over there. I don't know.
Yeah. Depends if BC's scoring. I mean, I guess the spread is telling you they're going to score a little bit, but that is a low
Not
total.
much.
Yeah.
Oh, let's play the fun game. Implied score. Let's see.
30.
28, 21, 29, 21, 28. Yeah, 28, 21-ish. 28,
Ish.
20 and a half. We go
Tell who
over.
You can tell who's the engineer in this podcast.
Over. Let's go over 48 and a half here. And yeah, let's lay them with the Hokies. I think they find a way off a bye Thursday night at home. Is there some sort of uniform situation going on here, Mike?
Virginia Tech got new Nike uniforms at the beginning of the year, and they only announced a maroon and a white one. And Thursday night is Virginia Tech's annual Orange Effect game. So whole stadium's going to be wearing orange, and end zones are painted orange. And then Virginia Tech, this morning, I guess, dropped the, oh, you guys want the orange uniforms because they hadn't worn them. Nike hadn't announced that they were giving them to them. And then Tech dropped that this morning. So the fan base, they collectively need a change of pants.
The white helmets look so good.
They look so, dude, the uniform's clean. The uniform is clean.
I'm an absolute sucker for white helmets with like almost every program. So, in any case, Adam Parker is, I think, in lockstep with what I saw Scott tweet earlier today. Of
They won't ever let me buy the shit I want to buy. Just let me buy it.
Georgia Tech fans have been saying the same thing ever since the Adidas contract started like 7 years ago. I don't know how these companies operate or why they do. It's
All I'll say is at least you got away from Russell Athletic because that was a travesty.
Oh,
to
good
everyone.
God. Yeah.
decided upgrade. No questions. All right. Hokies for both of us. Mike, you have it locked up. I'll take the over as well. We move on to Friday, October the 18th, 7 o'clock, ESPN2. The Florida State Seminoles on the road in Durham taking on the Duke Blue Devils. Mike, Duke is a 3-point favorite over Florida State. Things we knew we would be saying coming into this year. Totals of 42 and a half. Why would I bet Florida State here? What reason has Florida State given me to bet them so far this year in any way, shape, or form? Is this the first time that they've been underdogs this year? Maybe the second. There might have only been one other time.
Well, I mean, they were underdogs to Clemson.
That's true.
But I'm trying to think outside of that.
I think they were favored over Cal.
They were favored over Cal. That was the other game I was thinking of. So, no, they were favored over Cal. So,
Were they favored at SMU? No?
I don't think so.
All right. Well,
A few times. Anyway, they're underdogs again.
yeah. Give me Duke. Give me Duke.
Florida State was 6-point dogs to SMU.
Wow. Okay. All right.
They lost by what, 23 or some shit? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't close. Florida State's got to show me something if I'm going to be doing anything but fading them at this point this season. Like this season, if you just want to sum it all up in one word for Florida State, it's disappointment. I mean, it's just every way you look, nothing has gone right for them. You do get Brock Glenn at quarterback now, and we saw a couple of signs of life maybe against Clemson that they hadn't shown us before, but I just you got to prove it to me. You got to show me that you're capable of I would say covering spreads, but in a small spread game like this, you got to go on the road into Durham and win. And I know how hilarious it is talking about Florida State being underdogs to Duke, but it's kind of the reality of the situation right now. I question a little bit how well will Duke be able to move the ball here. I do like the under 42 and a half. I don't know that either team's going to move it all that well, so low total, give me the under.
Yeah, I'm on Florida State, actually. I'm on Florida State. So and a big reason for it is what you just mentioned at the end, where I think Duke's going to struggle to move the ball here. This could play out a lot like the Cal game earlier this year for Florida State. Now, again, you play that Cal game 10 times. Is Florida State winning more than half of them? I'm not sure they are. But can they win that game once? Yeah, they can, and they did. This is going to play out, I think, very similarly, right? We have two offenses that have really struggled. We have two competent defenses, but I think the key difference here for even a struggling Florida State offense is as good as this Duke defense has been this year, they have not been as good as Cal's, right? And I think this is going to be a really rough watch. I am also on the under. In fact, let's go ahead and lock that up too. I'm feeling spicy tonight. Let's lock that up.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Please.
This has
Real hot.
doesn't this have like 16-13 written all over it?
Oh, I was going to go 13-10. Yeah, I mean, it
13 to
does.
10?
I was going to say 10-6. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think the only way we get to the total is if we get some sort of defensive score or something, like short fields. I think that could screw us a little bit on the total potentially. And I think there's definitely potential for that because you look at Florida State's turnover issues this year, you look at how Duke's turned the ball over at times, like that's definitely something that could happen, could be in the cards. But these are two offenses that have really struggled. Florida State's got more athletes. I think defensively, this is going to be a tough matchup for Duke's offense that has struggled to move the ball already. Florida State's defense, I think, has been steadily improving. That Clemson game, they actually played decently. Like, if you go back and watch it, they didn't look horrible against Clemson. I think Duke's really going to struggle to move it here. So I like Florida State. I like what I saw out of what I've seen out of Brock Glenn so far. I think it is a half-step improvement. And I think that's all you may need to beat Duke here. So not only do I think they could cover, I think it potentially win this game outright. I'd look at it on the money line if you're a real sicko. Maybe bet this game money line. But
I don't care. I'm a sicko.
There it is. If there's one pick in this game, though, it's the under. You gotta bet the under here with these two offenses. Got to do it.
The thing that sticks out to me that is a thing to watch is, as you mentioned, this offense looked a little better for Florida State against Clemson with Brock Glenn at the helm. Like, if that trend continues this week after a bye week against a slightly less capable Clemson defense, or a slightly less capable Duke defense, I mean, at what point do we go back and say, like, what were we doing with DJU for the first 5-6 games of the year? Like, at some point, it's going to look absurd that you stuck with this and you swore up and down, no, he's the best guy in practice, all this stuff. Like, clearly, and we were begging for this the whole time, this guy, Brock Glenn, gives you a better chance to win games, or at the very least, he's worth a shot. Yeah. And that's what I want to see here is, does Florida State move the ball, and are they more effective on offense with Brock Glenn at quarterback than they ever were with DJU?
I know the schedule, tough closing stretch. If they even sniff bowl eligibility, like come within a game or so, or maybe they lose a couple tight games and they're sitting at the end of the year with like 3 or 4 wins, I think we're going to be sitting here being like, if you played Brock Glenn, it would have been a gap year, right? You obviously you went 13-0 in the regular season last year. No, I don't really count the bowl game because of the situation, everything that was happening there. But maybe you're talking about a 7 or an 8 win Florida State, which wouldn't have been that far off of our season prediction of like, oh, maybe Florida State's like a 9-3 type team this year. If they come even close to bowl eligibility and we come back to the schedule and we look at a couple games they lost with DJU where they lost close, maybe we're having the question of maybe you should have played Brock Glenn sooner. So
Yep. Yeah, completely. All right, Duke for me, Florida State for Mike, under for both of us. Mike has the under locked. Anything else before we move on to Saturday?
Nope.
All right. Let's keep it moving. As a reminder, as you all watch these games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, anytime this week, use hashtag GoACCMOTW to call out things on Twitter for us that you see as you see potential GoACC moments of the week. You see potential Brian Van Gorder Memorial You Tried Award submissions. Any award submissions you want to put in for us to take a look at when we do the recap show on Saturday, hashtag GoACCMOTW on Twitter. We'd really appreciate that. We had a bunch of submissions last week, and we got all of them in on the show, and appreciate your all's help with that. We can't have our eyes everywhere, so it helps having you all keeping an eye out for us.
Yep. Please continue to do that.
Let's start at noon on Saturday on ABC. The number 6 Miami Hurricanes on the road in Louisville, taking on the Cardinals. Miami, a 4.5-point road favorite here. Total is 61.5. Number 6 team, they're on the road, but playing an unranked team. Louisville has been less than convincing for basically since they started conference play. 4.5? That's it?
Oh, what's that sound?
New sound?
That's the producer's pick of the week, gentlemen.
Oh.
So, I'm on Louisville plus 4.5.
Wow.
Miami has been cooking it way too close to the kitchen. That's not even the right way to say that. With Virginia Tech should have lost. Cal should have lost. They're either going to lose or be within 3 with points to Louisville.
Yep. I like that. Like that a lot, Scott.
As mentioned on the recap, there was the sign at game day last weekend that they were in Eugene, right? They were at Ohio State, Oregon. Doesn't matter. There's a sign at game day that said the U is 4-2. Change my opinion. And it's a compelling argument, I think.
The comments are going nuts for the producer's pick of the week. Look at that, huh? Look at that.
Love that.
Whoa! It took everybody by surprise.
Adam Parker continuing to negotiate for the Connor Stallion steal of the week.
I do like that continues to come up, and it's not going without notice, is what I will say. That's might have to go ahead and work that in. I am also on Louisville here. I like the Cardinals a lot. I don't know for sure if this is a lock situation. This is a game I'm potentially looking at betting. I think it's fair to say that Louisville has not played their best football yet this year. But there have been signs of good stuff in a lot of the games they've played. It's been a lot of silliness, though. Special team stuff, dumb penalties, that sort of stuff that you can clean up. And they have not played their best game yet, but they still have talent. And we have talked on this podcast time and time again how this team, the difference between this year's team and last year's team, it's not that it's a gigantic talent gap. It's that they're not playing as disciplined and their schedule's a little harder. That's the difference between this year's team and last year's team. So I think athletically, they can match up with Miami here. I love that they're getting this game at home, number one. A short home dog, I'm almost always going to be interested in taking. Number two, going to Louisville is not a fun place to play. And especially for a nooner. They get up at Louisville. I'm thinking back to the Lamar Jackson, that Louisville-Florida State game. They get up, and that was a much better Louisville team, but they get up for nooners there. And this is going to be a tough environment for Miami to go in. Nooner, sleepy game. Hurricanes have not been playing their best football. They are coming off a bye, so we'll see if they regroup and they look a little bit better. But I like Louisville here a lot. And again, Miami could win this game close. I would probably lean that direction. Miami tight, because that's how they've been winning a lot of games lately. I'm not sure if this is the week where they necessarily get bit in the ass by that, because Louisville, again, has been playing like undisciplined. They've been committing really stupid penalties. And that's where I'm like, all right, like tight game late, is Louisville going to go back to playing undisciplined football? But I do think Louisville can keep it within the margin here. Very, very tight game. I lean Miami on the win, but I like Louisville plus 4.5.
I want to like a short home dog like this. By the way, Mike, just something we didn't really bring up. Being a home dog, you know that what that makes Louisville here, by the way.
They are the home field home dog of the week.
That's right. Use promo code GOACC24 at checkout at homefieldapparel.com for 15% off your first order. Louisville, home field apparel, home dog of the week. I want to like Louisville here. I really do. Like, again, short home underdog, and in a certain sense, this line stinks, right? Like, you've got a number 6 team again on the road against an unranked team, like, and we're talking about less than 6 points is the spread, and the way that Miami has moved the ball and all this stuff. I can't do it, Mike. The way that this Louisville team has been playing, it's so inconsistent, so undisciplined. They have played so poorly in situations.
But how are Virginia Tech and Cal playing, Joey? Were they any better?
I mean,
I don't know.
Not by a ton, but like Cal's defense is way better than Louisville's is right now, and like Louisville's another team. By the way, we talked earlier in the show about weird games. Louisville has played some weird games because their offense does not finish drives well at all. They get into the red zone and they just like glitch out, and it's like, this is my problem with Louisville right now. Is I see a Miami offense coming in that they might not, be super consistent over 60 minutes, but they are going to get hot for about 3 drives somewhere in there and score 3 touchdowns in a row. Louisville's offense can't string more than like 1 touchdown drive in a row together right now. Like,
Yeah.
they will find ways to have miscommunications on option routes, and they're going to blow a protection somewhere, and like they're going to find ways for their drives to stall out, and they won't turn, touchdowns become field goals become punts, and like all of a sudden your offense, you move the ball, but you're not converting it into points anymore. And that's my issue with Louisville and what I've been seeing. The defense has not been what we expected. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's got its problems, it's got its holes. I just think over a 60-minute period, Miami will find a way. And again, I've been willing to fade Miami this year with what we've seen so far, but like, I think if we're thinking that Louisville has a chance to win this game, we're kind of wish casting a little bit based on what we've seen, at least from them so far.
Yeah.
So give me Miami.
That's again, fair reason to take Miami.
Yeah.
Hold on to your butts.
61.5. I'm going to leave that total alone. That's kind of a high number. I can kind of see it going either way. If Louisville finds a way to finish a couple of drives all of a sudden, like, yeah, that'll sail over. But I think there's a chance that this is like, I don't know, 38-17. Like, I think there's a chance for that, and that goes under. So, Miami off a bye, Louisville coming back from Charlottesville. They didn't look great last week. I would love to be able to take Louisville here, but I don't feel good about this spot for the Cardinals with the way they've looked so far this year.
Over. Miami's defense has been giving up a ton of explosive plays. Louisville's defense has not been as good this year. You just laid all that out. I like the over.
Yeah. Yep. That's fair. I think if you're picking Louisville, you're probably taking the over here for sure.
Exactly. Yep.
It's hard to imagine that they're going to hold Miami to 17, 20 points here.
Correct.
And have a shot to win the game. So
yeah.
All right, Louisville and the over for Mike. Louisville for producer Scott, and I have Miami in this game at what's the stadium? It's not Papa John's anymore. What is it? I don't know.
He got himself into some trouble. We're calling it something different now.
Some Federal Credit Union, something or other. I don't really know. Anyways, go Cards. I hope they win. L1C4, all that stuff. There you go.
I'll throw that up.
It is the LNN Federal Credit Union Stadium.
There you go.
The one thing I've always said about that is that it rolls off the tongue.
There you go. Shout out to Dave Brown, Bourbon Hunter, our Louisville fan in the chat.
Yeah.
It's good having representation. I like having representation from all fan bases. And
I do too.
By the way, people don't know, Louisville, my second allegiance. That's it's where my dad was born and raised. So I've got a lot of family there, and Louisville, Kentucky was always a big rivalry in my family growing up. So that was something I had to choose allegiances on early, and I chose Louisville. I chose right, as far as I'm concerned. So anyways, moving on. Noon on the ACC network. The Virginia Cavaliers on the road in Death Valley taking on the number 10 Clemson Tigers. Clemson a 21.5 point favorite. Totals 57.5. This is Tony Elliott makes his return to Death Valley. Mike, you look like you've got opinions on this game.
I've been on the record this year. Trying to do this with a straight face. I've been on the record this year saying that I think Virginia's improved. I think they're playing better football. I think they've been competent. I can't say that I've said that, but I've said that they're competent and they're playing better football because I believe that. I think there's evidence of better coaching this year. There's evidence of higher upside on offense. The defense has been okay. They've been better. But haven't been that good. Haven't been that good. Good luck in Death Valley on Saturday. Give me Clemson. I do not see it. Look, the thing that I really like here on the Clemson side is Anthony Calandria loves to throw the ball to the other team and take some chances. And with the way this Clemson defense has been playing this year, especially after that Georgia game, I don't think you can do that. Hate this matchup up front for Virginia. Hate the way they can't consistently run the ball, and the way Clemson has been defending the run this year makes this a one-dimensional game for UVA, and it puts UVA in a spot where they have to throw on the road with Calandria, a turnover-prone quarterback. Clemson's offense, by and large, has been rolling. Virginia's defense has hung in there. I think they'll get some stops early in this game. I think Virginia's defense will play okay, but I think eventually the dam is going to break here. Clemson got off to a slow start last Saturday against Wake Forest and then just demolished them. I think Virginia is obviously better than Wake. Like, that's how I feel about that, right? And I think they've been playing better football over the course of the season. I think Virginia will try to be game for a little bit here, but eventually they're going to be in a situation where this is going to be a game script dependent. We're going to have to throw it a bunch, and I don't love Virginia's chances in that scenario, which I think is got a pretty good chance of playing out. So give me Clemson by a bunch, a boatload here. 45-14 or something.
Wow.
A lot.
Yeah.
I think they win this game by a lot. I just don't like how this sets up for Virginia at all. Yeah. Not an indictment of the coaching staff or how they played this year. This is just a really, really bad matchup.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, again, I haven't really brought it up since, but I think, what was it, week 2 that I labeled Virginia as my other favorite team in the ACC? Like, kind of fun to watch, and they're not going to win every game, but every game's going to be entertaining. I'm with you. This is a bad matchup for Virginia, and there's a piece of me, and we've seen Virginia in a couple games the last couple of years where it's a situation like this where they're like completely outclassed, completely outgunned, and then we look up and there's like 8 minutes left in the game and it's like a 4-point game and you're like, wait, what's going on there? So I wouldn't totally put it past them to pull a rabbit out of a hat and somehow find a way to make this a close game. But the other thing that I've said for years and years and years on this podcast, and something I heard long ago when it comes to sports betting, don't get in the way of the train, Mike. And don't get in the way of the wagon in this case. And Clemson, as we have said, looks substantially better than they have looked, I think, really almost any point since, Trevor left?
Yeah,
right? Like,
since 20 with Trevor, yeah.
They week over week, they are ripping teams limb from limb. And the other thing that sticks out in my mind, Mike, and the other important thing here is, do you remember what happened? Well, was it last week, 2 weeks ago at the end of the Florida State game? Do you remember what Dabo did?
There was a late field goal to cover the spread.
Yeah, there was a late field goal to cover the spread. It wasn't necessary, but they did it. And somehow that makes me wonder, Mike, does Dabo know the line? And is Dabo somewhat, is Dabo invested in getting past the line? And I don't mean to imply that Dabo is betting on games, but
sure you do. I'm just kidding.
I do mean to imply that Clemson boosters are betting on games, and Dabo seeks to satisfy the Clemson boosters.
Mm-hmm.
So I think given the chance to get past the 21.5 number late in the game, and again, you see a hook like that on a key number and you get a little nervous. I'm not getting in the way of the train. I believe that Dabo wants to kind of run the score up a little bit. And it was, I think it was, what was it? And Dennis mentioned, does Dabo ease off the gas late because he's going against Tony Elliott, his former offensive coordinator? Maybe.
Does it matter?
But, yeah, I don't know if it matters.
Yeah.
So
Not sure it matters.
Give me Clemson. Lamb. I feel really good about it, Mike. Let's lock it up.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Please.
Oh, wow. We got, did we get, whoa.
I double locked it by myself, I think is what we're.
No, you didn't. You double locked it with me. I'm jumping on this too, Joey.
Oh.
Clemson minus 21.5. Let's lock that thing up.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Please.
Final thing I want to add, because we've talked about this enough. Final thing I want to add. Whether I've locked it up or not on this podcast the last few weeks, I've continuously bet Clemson in the 21 to 23 point range. And don't get in the way of the train, and they haven't let me down yet. So we're going to keep it going.
Yep. Just keep riding that horse until it, what was the joke we had about putting him out to pasture long ago?
That was DeAndre Francois. We had one Heisman Trophy getting out of the stable, and one Heisman finalist getting euthanized. That's what that was.
There was something else about, was it David Cutcliffe putting him out to pasture or something like that?
And, oh, yeah, that's right. That's what that was. Yeah.
This podcast has some deep cuts.
Yeah. We said we were going to put David Cutcliffe out to pasture, and then I clarified and said, we're not going to kill him. We're not.
All right, Clemson locked up. Clemson minus the 21 and a hook. Locked up for the both of us. Don't get in the way of that train. 57.5, leave it alone as far as I'm concerned. Like, could go either direction. You're just gambling at that point.
Yeah.
All right, last one at noon on the CBS Sports Network. The Wake
Speaking
Forest
of gambling.
Steamin' Deeks on the road in what town is
Stores?
Connecticut
Hartford?
in?
Stores?
Hartford.
Well,
Hartford sounds
Connecticut's a state.
Yeah.
University, I guess. Stores or Hartford?
Hartford.
I think it's Hartford sounds right. All right.
Yeah.
Wake Forest in Hartford, catching 1.5 against the Huskies. Wake's totals 56.5 here. Good grief. Wake's an underdog to UConn. I understand you're on the road, but come on, Wake. Like, this feels like a gotta have it spot for the Deeks. Like, I think just give me Wake and outright. Like, Wake wins this game on the field. I could not sleep at night if I picked UConn to win and cover this game. Wake has to have it.
Hey, Scott, there's some old UConn sound of mine out there, isn't there? Yeah, I'm locking up UConn. I'm not locking them up. I'm not locking them up. But I am
the
picking...
lock of the night is UConn?
No. But I am picking UConn. I like UConn. Right. This is I don't know. Flip a coin. I mean, these are two bad teams. UConn needs this actually, ironically, for bowl eligibility purposes, because they're actually playing semi-competent football this year, but they're not that good. I mean, you look at who they've beaten; it's not exactly a smorgasbord, if you will, of like good teams. Wake Forest,
smorgasbord, not good teams, but
not good teams. It's yeah. Oh well, smorgasbord, bad teams.
Yeah.
Wake Forest is also a bad team, so maybe you can add them to the smorgasbord. I have no analysis here. This is a gross game. If you're betting this game, call the hotline.
Call the hotline. UConn 4-2 wins over Merrimack, Florida Atlantic, Buffalo, and last week they beat Temple by 9. Not a good sign. They lost to Duke 26-21 in one of the 26-point Duke games. Yeah, I don't know what to do with that. I don't think UConn is like the laughing stock that they once were. I think Jim Mora's got them like kind of respectable, but we talked about Wake and kind of this has been disappointing for them. Last year was disappointing. I think if Dave Clawson is ever going to cook up something, and find a way to win one of these games. I think it's got to start here. It has to. So give me the Deeks. I think they win this game on the field. Total 56.5, probably over, honestly. Like, Wake's not playing a lot of defense, so just take the over.
It's a principle. It's a principle play to take the over on Wake Forest games. So I'm with you on the over. There is a conversation breaking out in the comments between Lee Nobody and producer Scott. Producer Scott has just informed Lee Nobody that Lee Nobody, by the way, said that this was a CW underdog game. It is not. This game's on CBS Sports Network, which I don't know if that's better or worse than being on the so-called Cheeks W, but this is a CBS Sports Network game. Lee Nobody with a big yikes, like, oh wow, we're playing this game on the CBS Sports Network. Yes, for some reason we are.
I'm trying to think. What is it?
I got a name for CBS Sports Network.
Oh God,
Cheeks Booty Sweat Network.
Cheeks Booty Stank.
Sure.
Cheeks Booty Stank. I need the handshake emoji between the two of you on that one.
Why do I feel like Wake is the only team in the ACC that plays on the CBS Sports Network, and they have now played multiple games this year on the CBS Sports Network?
It's what happens when you're bad. This is what happens. We have an important comment here from Will Secor. We have a transitive property situation that we need to bring up on the screen.
Dear Lord.
For the people on audio, UConn beat Buffalo, who beat Northern Illinois, who beat Notre Dame, who beat Louisville, who beat Georgia Tech, who beat Georgia State, who beat Vanderbilt, who beat Bama, who beat Georgia. Therefore, UConn, of course,
I can sign off on that. Yeah,
is better than Georgia. I love transitive victory math, and that's from a avid Georgia Tech fan, Georgia Tech fan, Will Secor. So,
strangely, the only one of those games that I don't distinctly remember is the very first one that he mentioned. Because no, I did not watch UConn and Buffalo, but I guess I didn't really watch Buffalo and NIU either. But I did watch NIU, Notre Dame, and all the other ones. So that's good math, Will. I appreciate that.
I remember the Buffalo NIU game because of the field goal at the end, the week after beating Notre Dame. That hits close to home, which leads us into our next game, by the way.
That's right. You had Wake, Mike, here?
UConn.
Oh, you had UConn. That's right. You're locking up UConn.
Not actually, but yeah, I like UConn.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Well, to each their own. That's fine. All right. Wake and the over for me. UConn for Mike.
Over.
Let's move on.
Over for me too.
Over as well. All right. Fair enough.
Just for the record. There we go.
Absolutely necessary. 3:30 on ESPN. My Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets are kind of at home against the number 12 Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Georgia Tech, a 12.5 point underdog here. Totals 48.5. This game's being played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, a solid mile and a quarter, I think, down the road from Bobby Dodd Stadium. Walkable if you're on campus, tailgating and stuff. Like it's really not bad. I've done it before. Not a big deal. Georgia Tech. So Haynes King went out of last week's game. He did not play the fourth quarter. They were not all that specific about the injury, the nature of it, the severity of it. Looked like some sort of a possible like shoulder dislocation. I've heard a lot of people kind of describe it as week to week. I'm going to be honest with you. I'll be a little surprised if Haynes King is playing on Saturday. I don't think that he's going to be in that game. I think this is a Zach Pyron game. Now, here's what's funny. Is that this line, I think, opened at like 8.5. I think it went down a little bit. I think it quickly went down to like 7.5, and now it's ballooned all the way up to 12.5. And I think that's pretty clearly a guess on Haynes King not playing. This is a Zach Pyron game. What's funny to me is that, honestly, I don't know that Zach Pyron, as opposed to Haynes King, really drastically changes the handicap of Georgia Tech's offense. Like, this is probably one of, if not the best backup quarterback in the ACC. Pyron, a guy you might remember, played a couple games as a true freshman. He started when Brent Key was the interim. He went into Blacksburg and beat Virginia Tech, right, as the starting quarterback as a true freshman. He's been kind of the short yardage touchdown vulture guy the last couple of years. But sure enough, I mean, since they hired Buster Faulkner as offensive coordinator, Haynes King has taken basically every meaningful offensive snap the last year and a half, other than the short yardage, goal line situation kind of stuff. But that's not to say that Pyron can't do it. I think the offense is going to look a little bit different based on like preference and skill sets and stuff. But like, I think they'll be okay moving the ball the same way with Pyron as they were with King. That being said, Notre Dame's defense, very good. So
Yeah.
that's something I worry about. On the other hand, Notre Dame's offense, a little bit one-dimensional. They really want to rely on the run game. Riley Leonard, our old friend from Duke, like not a super prolific passer, to say the least. Georgia Tech's defense, where it's improved, has honestly been in the run defense. So I wonder a little bit of this from a matchup standpoint. Is this an okay matchup for the Jackets? I'm curious to get your thoughts here, Mike.
I think it is. I think it is. I like Georgia Tech to cover here. I don't think they win. I think it's a backdoor cover type situation. Game's close. Notre Dame pulls away. Georgia Tech scores late, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Georgia Tech wins this game. What I will say, though, is, like you said, where Georgia Tech's improved has been the rushing defense. And I think Notre Dame's offense has been more balanced in recent weeks, but I'm curious to see if that is going to continue against better competition. Like, Notre Dame looked really balanced last week against Stanford, but it's Stanford. Mm-hmm. So I kind of almost like throw it away with how Stanford's been playing recently. This feels like a 10-point win for Notre Dame, where it's like Georgia Tech plays them tough early, Andy kind of pulls away a little bit. Georgia Tech's never like truly threatening to win. Notre Dame just kind of keeps them at arm's length. Notre Dame's got too many athletes. Like, I think that's what it's going to boil down to. The passing game has improved. I think Leonard's going to make some throws. This could also be a situation where Notre Dame has hit on some explosive rushing plays in recent weeks. Maybe that's what happens here. Georgia Tech has given up some explosives in the run game, even though I think the run defense as a whole has improved. I agree with you on the Pyron point versus Haynes King. I don't think it is amplified as much in this particular matchup. One thing I want to highlight, too, Notre Dame defensive back Benjamin Morrison is out for the season. He has a hip injury. That is really, really significant. Maybe not in this particular game, but in terms of Notre Dame's college football playoff and national championship type aspirations that they always have. I don't know if they make the playoff. I'm not sure how far they advance. That's a huge loss for their defense. They've now lost a starting defensive end. They've lost one of the best corners that they've had in the last 30 years easily.
And replacing him with a freshman, if I'm not mistaken.
Replacing him with a freshman who's good, but he's not Benjamin Morrison. And then they also had to replace a left tackle at the start of the year who's slated to be their best offensive lineman. Just really, really tough, man. Yeah, it's tough. I don't think Georgia Tech pulls this off. I don't think Georgia Tech has been good enough or consistent enough to pull this upset off. I would be very surprised if they did that. But I do think that they are going to be within 2 touchdowns of the total of the spread. So give me the Jackets to cover. I like Notre Dame to win. Total's 48.5. I don't think I'm touching that. It kind of depends on what version of Georgia Tech's offense we see. And if Haynes King is playing, all bets are off. We don't know what his health is. If he's not playing, Zach Pyron, like you said, hasn't really taken a meaningful snap. That's something I don't want to play with the total. And Notre Dame's offense has just been very up and down. So, I want no part of that.
Yep. I'm with you. I'm going to take the points with Georgia Tech here. I think you get to the number 10 or so, and that's kind of where my opinion changes. I think I'll take my chances that this is a 7 to 10 point game. I think Notre Dame wins. I would be very surprised if Georgia Tech has the ball down 4, driving to win the game under 2 minutes left, something like that. I don't think that they're going to be able to be there. But I do think the matchup is favorable for Georgia Tech to keep it close. and to make this a competitive game. Again, I'll take Tech in the points outside of 10. I think I would like it much more outside of 14 if somehow the number gets out that far. I think you start getting might put a little bit of my own money on that, but
Yeah.
I do think it's kind of a lower scoring game. I don't know. But then again, it's like I think about, again, talk about the weird games and the special teams nonsense. You got a backup quarterback against a very good defense. Is there a chance of a defensive score? Like, I'd probably leave the total alone. There's some unknowns here, but if anything, maybe go over here. It's not a high number, so I'd leave it alone. But I think just for now, just take Georgia Tech to cover the 12.5. I'm with you. I think Notre Dame wins by 7 to 10 here.
Yeah. That's where I'm at too.
So
we'll see. Shorter game too. Like I think two teams like to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
That could lend to maybe an underplay. But again, with the explosive Georgia Tech's given up, with Notre Dame's balance offensively, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. I think you stay off the total.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Lee, buddy, on the record, Georgia Tech winning this game. Okay.
I mean, hey, stranger things have happened. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois this year. So, and
Yeah.
they've lost to bad Stanford. They've lost to Marshall. I mean, it's happened under Freeman. So
Imagine your team losing to Northern Illinois. Who could do that? Who could do that, Mike?
at least it's not an opener, right?
Unthinkable. I will say there was what I'll call a rumor. It was a rumor that was put out by like the Atlanta Journal-Constitution beat writer, which is rarely actually a rumor. It's kind of just made to look like a rumor. Roof might be open for Mercedes-Benz for this game. Not that there would be any sort of weather, more just like fresh air and it's a nice day, so they'll do that if they do it. But in any case, if you need something to wear to this game, section103.com, the internet's premier place. There it is. For all things wonderful Georgia Tech apparel, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, something for men, women, children, babies, something for the whole family. Go get it all, section103.com. Use promo code GOACC for 10% off your first order. I love mine. Today was the first like beautiful day that we've had in Houston in like 6 months. And it felt like the appropriate time to break out probably my favorite hoodie in the rotation. This is the Section 103 Coach hoodie. It is super soft, super comfortable. I love it. It's like it is. I make an effort to keep my wife from stealing it because it is that comfortable and that soft. So I love mine. If it's a kind of a cool day for you, you might want this. You might want one of the performance shirts. You might want one of the t-shirts. They've got NIL shirts. Haynes King, Eric Singleton, Zach Pyron. All those folks, again, one of them probably starting at quarterback this Saturday. Who knows? In any case, go get it all. Section103.com. Use promo code GOACC at checkout for 10% off your first order. Shout out to Steven and the gang. We love the product.
Yep.
Which beat writer for the AJC? I think it was Chad Bishop, I believe. Thanks to N. Dennis for pointing that out. 3:30 on the ACC network. NC State on the road in Berkeley, taking on the Cal Golden Bears. Cal's a 10-point home favorite. Total's 46.5.
Under game.
What's that?
Under game. It's an under game.
Yeah, it's probably the under. Mike, tell the whole damn world this is Bear territory.
Yeah,
This
is Bear territory. Yeah, NC State. I'm out. I'm done. We are done with NC State. If you're a double-digit dog to Cal, we're out. Cal doesn't play offense. Cal does not play offense. Offense is optional. We've covered that tonight. If you're a 10-point dog, to Cal, we're laying him with Cal. That's ridiculous. This is we've reached is NC State making a bowl game territory. So that's not territory you want to be in. We were supposed to win 9 or 10 games this year, and that's not me. That's Vegas. That's Vegas putting your win total 8.5, 9. Not me. I didn't do that. And by the way, I bet over 8.5 for NC State. So they can leave that there.
Wolf.
Not happy with that. That when that bet is dead in mid-October, that means we're gonna lay him with Cal. This is an anchor bet this week.
Scott, was that a wolf pun?
Could have been.
I didn't think about it that way, but yes.
I think I've found a way to describe the Cal offense, Mike, and I think the best thing I can come up with is
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
There it is.
it seems like the right way to look at Cal's offense. Point is, NC State's offense, not sometimes maybe good. It's really not. And like a couple of these games, I want to point out with NC State, a couple of these games in recent weeks that they've kind of kept it close. They've gotten like defensive scores and other stuff that kind of props up their scores to make them look closer than they really are. I don't know that Cal's going to let them do that. And if anything, I think Cal is going to find a way to take advantage of a freshman quarterback, CJ Bailey, maybe get a defensive score of their own. I think Cal can get some separation here. This is a cross-country situation for NC State. I don't want any part of the Wolfpack in this game. I don't like it at all. Give me Cal. I've only locked up one thing so far in this podcast, so let's go ahead and make it 2. Let's lay the 10 with Cal. Lock it up.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Please.
Yeah, I'm good on NC State. I'm with you. No thanks. Pass.
Yeah.
Probably
Ricky
under
put
46 and a half.
Yeah, probably under. Ricky put some in the chat. NC State is one of the best skill players in the conference and is still in the range of Cheeks. That's correct, because he does not have a quarterback who can get him the ball. So that's not great. Not great. Turns out you can only get him the ball against Western Carolina. You're probably a bad offense. So.
Yep. Yeah.
Chances KC Concepcion transfers this year.
High.
Not bad.
High. Yeah.
And as mentioned in prior years with prior players, that we are having that conversation in week 8 sucks. It sucks so bad.
Yeah. It's
Like if you're an
awful.
NC State fan and you're looking towards next year, like that's the big thing you're hanging your hat on is, well, we're going to have third year KC Concepcion. And if you're now having to think about, well, do we, or is he going to leave and go to Ole Miss? Like, ugh, I hate it.
Yeah.
What if
Yeah,
he transfers to Alabama and becomes a first-round draft pick? Will be okay, Joey?
You mean like Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah, like Jahmyr Gibbs.
He deserved better than Jeff Collins' stupid flying circus.
Fair enough.
Will Secor, he should come. I mean, he might if he leaves NC State.
Sure, yeah, we'll take
Yeah.
him. Come on down, Casey.
There it is.
There you go.
There it is.
Cal, for the both of us, I've got it locked up. I've also got the under here.
I'm on. I'll join you on the under.
There we go. Fair enough. Last game of the day, Mike. Light night slate is 8 o'clock on the ACC network. The only evening game we've got here. The number 21 SMU Mustangs on the road in Palo Alto, taking on the Stanford Cardinal. SMU a 16.5 point favorite on the road. Totals 53.5. That's a lot of points for a road team. I don't care. Lay in with SMU here.
Yeah.
Whatever flaws they have, Stanford is not in position to exploit right now.
Agree. Yeah, agree. Stanford, we've talked about bad offense and the situation that you're in there. The issue in this matchup is SMU is going to score a lot of points. They're starting to fire on all cylinders offensively. I just have a really hard time believing that Stanford is going to be able to keep up here. It's kind of where I'm at. Now, SMU does a lot of running the quarterback. The running game with the running backs has been hit or miss dependent on the week. It's been really, really heavy on the Kevin Jennings element of things, right? But, man, I think this is a really good matchup for SMU.
Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, like if you're going to beat SMU right now, you need to be able to score a lot of points and kind of win in a shootout, I think. Stanford's not doing that right now.
No.
And, I mean, they got the ACC win earlier this year against Syracuse, but, again, weird game. Syracuse kind of let them hang around, and entirely possible that SMU, again, goes to the West Coast and expects that they're going to win, and all of a sudden early in the fourth quarter, you find yourself in a dogfight and you don't really know what you're doing, and you got to find your way out. Like that could happen here, but I more expect that SMU is going to kind of have an easy time winning this game, going away. Stanford just, again, I think they'll get there, but not right now. So
Yeah.
Yep. All right. SMU for the both of us, total 53.5. I don't know.
No opinion.
Pass.
No opinion.
Stanford might not do a whole lot of contributing to that number, so it becomes a question of when does SMU call up the dogs?
So many unders tonight. I out of principle, I will not partake.
Pass. All right, Mike. I think that's all we've got on week 8. Am I forgetting anything?
Play the sound.
3:30.
I need this one bad.
3:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus, as is tradition, is just a weekly. I haven't updated that line in the document in like weeks, and haven't had to. Bowling Green at home, taking on the Kent State Golden Flashes. Is that right?
I think that's
I think
right.
that's right. Yeah.
I think it's right.
Oh, yeah. Who's the Zips? Akron.
Akron's
the
the
Yeah,
Zips.
just
Yeah.
another bad team, Scott. Just another bad team. It's fine. They're similar, and that
There's
they're
a
both
lot of-
really bad.
There's a lot of MAC teams that are candidates for being worst team in the country. So, and those are, both of them. Both of them count.
Yeah,
Bowling Green's a 21-point favorite. Total's 55.5. I think we're laying them with the Falcons and the under.
Kent State is not winning a game this year, and if they win this one, I am going to have to be institutionalized. I have the over 6.5 tickets for Bowling Green. Started out great. Felt good about how they looked in the non-con. Felt less good since they got into conference play, and they've been doing this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I need this bad.
This is your last
Need it bad.
stand on the win total ticket.
The Falcons' last stand. Scott Loeffler's last stand.
Gotta have it. Gotta have it. Laying with the Falcons. This is a get-right game. Feel good. Move on next week. Make it happen.
Gotta keep it moving. Gotta keep it moving.
That's right. That's right. All right, Mike. That's actually all I've got on week 8. Anything further before we work on getting out of here?
Let's review the locks.
Let's review our locks. You have Virginia Tech minus the 7.5 on Thursday night against Boston College. Florida State Duke under 42.5 on Friday night. Clemson minus the 21.5 against Virginia. And then I have Clemson as well, minus 21.5 against Virginia. And then I have Cal minus the 10 against NC State. Worth mentioning, Clemson, a double barrel lock. The last 2 weeks, Mike, I believe our double barrel locks are 3-0. So we are hot on those right now. So if you're trying to find the time to fade us, there's no time like the present. But in any case, there you go. 3 locks for Mike, 2 for me. I do think these lines are getting dialed in a little more. And this is usually what happens is those first couple weeks, we really feel like something's out of whack. And last couple weeks, it feels like they're getting a little more dialed in, I think.
Yeah. Agree. I won't be able to technically bet 2 of these games that I locked up. Technically speaking.
Right. Strictly technically.
Yes.
Yes, you will. If you make it to New Jersey this weekend, you can do it.
That's well, I guess that's true. We have to wait till later in the week. We'll see what the lines look like.
Should we do that little piece of housekeeping before we work on getting out of here?
Yes, we should. We may be recording Saturday night, but we may also not be. And if that's the case, we'll be recording Sunday night. So, just stay tuned, basically.
More or less
We'll let you
business as usual for this show. We might be
we'll
recording
let you know.
Saturday. If not, it'll be Sunday.
We'll let you know. It's
Yeah.
we'll let you know.
Yeah. Potential push to Sunday night. Keep an eye on Twitter, Twitter. Twitter.com/@BC Podcast ACC. We put out a little note Saturday night last week notifying folks we're going to be pushing to Sunday night. Keep an eye out there. If you see a note, we might be pushing to Sunday again this week. But if you don't see anything, we'll be here Saturday night, roughly midnight, a few minutes after on the East Coast to recap these games.
I have basically what's going on. I have plans to go see a buddy in New Jersey, but we got a whole family sickness thing going on. So it's a big we'll see.
Yeah.
The plans were set in stone, and now it's not as much because we're trying to see what the health situation is like in the household. So that's where we're at. We'll keep you posted.
So if he's sick, we're going Saturday night. If he's healthy, we're going Sunday night.
Pretty much, because I need to work either way Saturday night, so I will be working. Just
there you go.
Where it's going to be and my ability to record is,
YouTube.com/@the-ACC Football Podcast. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon. You will find out if and when we are going live Saturday, Sunday, whenever it is. So that's really the best way to know when we will be going live. So please, please, please hit those buttons. You will be notified. We are on Twitter @FTRSJoey, @Mike McDaniel SI, @Severus_Snipes, @BC Podcast ACC. Send us an email with your questions, comments, concerns, basketball conference podcast @gmail.com.
Nailed it.
Thank you. Support our sponsors, Homefield, Rhoback, Section 103. Promo codes, links, and such, all in the description here on YouTube or in your audio feed on your podcast that you're listening on right now. We appreciate your support of them. They appreciate your support of us in doing so. We are on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Amazon Music and Spotify, all the wherever you get your audio podcasts. Go find us there. We're at all those places. Mike, where else on the social medias?
Facebook.com/basketball conference rate review. Find most of our podcasts there. Shout out producer Scott. Welcome back, buddy.
Thanks, fellas. It's fun.
Welcome back to Scott. Scott, anything that we're forgetting here? Anything else before we work on getting out of here?
I don't know what the watchers numbers were while I was away, but it was over 100 for most of the show. Mm-hmm. I contribute that perfectly to me and not to you. So
right.
I did a good job.
I did. People loved the producer's pick of the week. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
I will say
we got
that.
real excited in the chat about that.
Yeah, a
Louisville
lot of people
plus
were fired
4.5.
up. Love
Producer's
that.
pick of the week. That's the one that we forgot to mention in the locks recap. Producer's pick of the week: Louisville plus the 4.5 against Miami. So we'll start tracking that as well.
Oh, wait. One point I wanted to point out in the producer's pick of the week. The first producer's pick of the week was SMU against Louisville 2 weeks ago. And SMU won outright. So 1 for 1 on the record book.
Let's make it 2 for 2 this week, Scott. Let's make it 2 for 2.
Hey, good cards, baby. Let's go.
Yeah.
One last thing before we get out of here. Alexis Solaris, is the gambling hotline a sponsor yet? Joke's on you, Alexis. Always has been. Always has
Always has been. Yeah.
Call the hotline.
Oh, 1-800-GAMBLER.
That's actually what comes up when you try putting in bets on Bowling Green. So, shout out.
Or UConn Wake Forest. For that matter.
Call the hotline. Yep. Mike, Scott, anything else?
Good.
You want to come back and recap these games on Saturday or maybe Sunday? Who knows?
We'll let you know.
Someday.
Yeah, let you know. All right. For that guy, Mr. Mike McDaniel, for producer Scott, I am Joey Weaver. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll talk to you again very, very soon. Enjoy the games. Until next time, go ACC.